Hello and welcome to the DSP project. I'm your host Rupert Brown, and this week we're going to be talking about gates, audio gates, and quite a fun, exciting way of using them if you haven't seen this technique before. Now, if you're not familiar with what an audio gate is, the easiest analogy I can think of is an actual gate. So how a noise gate works is when the level of a signal gets past our threshold, which is set by us, so when it gets past a certain level, it triggers the gate and it opens it up and it allows our sound to wander on through. Then when the sound drops below a certain level, then the gate closes up again. So we have our threshold, which sets how loud the level has to be to open the gate, and then once it drops below the threshold, the gate will start closing. And the speed that the gate closes is our release time. Now, the traditional use for gates in a sort of a recording type setup, commonly used on things like for recording drums. In a recording setup, gates are often referred to as noise gates because they're used to gate out excessive noise. So if you imagine you have a microphone on your tom drum, and your tom might not get used that much in a particular performance. So if you had that mic recording the tom the entire time, have that mic open, then that's going to add a lot of unnecessary excess noise. There's always going to be a certain amount of hiss and sound that you get for a mic being open. Now, with a noise gate, essentially what it will do is, because the level of the mic on the tom is below the threshold, it will heavily attenuate it, or sort of turn the volume right down so we don't get any of that noise. Then, when the tom is struck, the level goes past our threshold, the gate opens up, we record the sound of our tom, and then the gate closes again once the sound of the tom has dispersed, and it shuts off that mic again, essentially, heavily attenuates it, and we no longer get the sound of that microphone. So we're gating out the noise. Now, that has fairly little to do with how we're going to be using a gate today. Now, where gates start getting really interesting is when you start throwing sidechaining into the mix. Now, what sidechaining means is we can actually use a separate source as a trigger for the gate. So if you imagine we have source 1 here and we apply our gate to it, rather than relying on the level of source 1 to hit the threshold and trigger the gate, we can actually take some audio from source 2, and when source 2 gets loud enough and hits our threshold, then it will attenuate source 1 rather. So, how is that useful? Let's find out. So here we have a reasonably blank live set. I've just thrown 3 samples in here. We've got a lead sound and 2 drum loops. I'll start off by playing you the lead sound. As you can hear, that is a very kind of boring, repetitive thing. You wouldn't want to leave. We wouldn't leave that going on track for too long. Just for reference, I'll show you. Listen, that you hear the drum loops we've got here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to throw the gate onto this this boring lead sound we've got here, and we're going to hit the little triangle here, which pops out more options, specifically our sidechain option. We're going to select sidechain and select input from drum loop 1. So now it's the input from drum loop 1 has to meet the threshold in order for the gate to allow the sound from lead 1 to come through to our main output. So let's see what that sounds like now. So as you can hear, just the tops of the loudest points of the drum are allowing the bass to escape, the lead to escape. So I'm going to pull the threshold down to let a bit more through. Okay, so you can hear already we've got a lot more interesting cutting going on, and it's all nicely synced up with what the percussion is doing. So that's I mean, you can that can be done there basically. But if you want to go sort of the next step is you might want to take multiple sources for your sidechaining. Now I see a lot of guys when doing multiple sources for sidechaining, particularly like sidechain compression, a lot of guys will take just take another unit and put it in like another gate or another compressor, and select the second source, and so you've got, which in theory kind of works. You've still got the gating happening, but what I think the best technique is to actually make a specific mix just to feed your sidechain. So how we do that is we're going to use a return track, and we're going to rename it here and call it sidechain mix. And what this essentially allows us to do is we can sort of, now we can have a really fine tune how much of each signal we want to use as a mix to feed the sidechain. So we're going to turn the volume right down because we don't want to hear this. It's just it's just to be used as a trigger. So, and now on our gate, instead of selecting drum loop 1, we select the sidechain mix. Now as we play everything, we're going to hear nothing's getting through, because at the moment there's nothing coming out of our sidechain mix. So now we use our stems to mix together a feed for the gate. So I want some of this and some of this. So when the channels combine together, a cutting effect that uses all the different percussion elements inside of a song. So I'm going to try and maybe bring the attack time down a little bit, get it a little bit tighter, and add a longer release time. Threshold back. So that's how to get some really kind of cool gating effects happening. Now, the reason why I really like this technique is, one, because it's a lot of fun, but also because it's very quick to set up, and you can get a really tight level of integration between your percussion and rhythm and any other element inside of your track. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you're not already here, please head down to our website, theDSPproject.com, and leave a comment under this video. That would be really appreciated. Also, while you're there, you can subscribe and make sure you get all the future episodes delivered to you. Finally, you can send me an email direct to inbox@theDSPproject.com. I've been your host, Rupert Brown. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Join us next week where we will be talking about something else.